Look up for a moment, not with your eyes, but with your imagination. Above every city, every desert, every quiet village, the sky stretches wide, unchanged by human fear or ambition. And long before people understood what was happening on the ground, the sky once spoke first, not with words, not with thunder, but with light. This story begins in a world filled with questions, a world tired of power games, exhausted by broken promises, and quietly longing for something real. Most people were busy surviving their days, unaware that heaven had already started to write a message above their heads. A message so subtle that only the attentive would notice, and so meaningful that history would never be the same again. Faith often begins like this. Not dramatic, not loud. Just a sense that something matters more than routine, more than fear, more than what everyone else is chasing. The Bible is full of moments where God chooses silence over spectacle, patience over pressure, and signs over speeches. This is one of those moments. At Faith in English Bible Stories, we slow everything down on purpose, because faith grows when it is allowed to breathe. Because understanding Scripture calmly changes how you see your own life. These stories are not rushed lessons. They are quiet invitations to reflect, to listen, and to recognize that God often works long before we realize it. As this story unfolds, you won't hear angels singing or crowds cheering. Not yet. You'll hear footsteps on long roads, questions whispered in the dark, and hearts deciding whether a sign from heaven is worth following. This is a story about attention, about courage, about choosing to move when certainty is still far away. And here is why this moment matters for you. If you are someone who believes faith should be explained, not simplified, if you feel that God often speaks through what others overlook, if you want stories that strengthen your spirit while gently improving your English, then this place was made for you. These stories are not for everyone. They are for those who want to see deeper, listen longer, and walk more thoughtfully with God. If that describes you, don't let this be a one-time visit. Subscribe, not out of habit, but because you recognize yourself here. Because you want to keep discovering the quiet truths hidden in Scripture. Take a slow breath. Let the noise of the day fade. The sky is about to speak, and only those who stay will understand what it reveals. When the world looked normal, but heaven was already moving. The time was ordinary, yet uneasy. Life moved forward as it always had. Markets opened, families gathered, rulers enforced their will. But beneath the routine, something felt unresolved. People sensed that the world was heavy, as if history itself was holding its breath. Not because anyone announced it, but because hope had grown quiet. This was not a moment of celebration. It was a season of waiting. Many believed God still spoke, but fewer expected him to act. Faith had become careful, controlled, measured by tradition rather than expectation. Most people looked down at their struggles instead of up at the heavens, and that is exactly why the sign appeared above them. The setting of this story is not defined by a single city or a famous building. It is defined by contrast. Below, human systems relied on control, titles, and visible strength. Above, the sky moved freely, untouched by politics or fear. And one night, something unfamiliar entered that sky. Steady, deliberate, impossible to ignore for those paying attention. What makes this moment powerful is not how many people saw it, but how few truly noticed it. The sign did not demand attention. It offered it. No voice explained its meaning. No authority confirmed its importance. Heaven placed the signal in plain sight and allowed the human heart to decide whether it mattered. This is how God often sets the stage. He does not interrupt history. He weaves himself into it. While the world focuses on noise, he introduces meaning quietly. While people search for answers and power, He places truth where only humility can recognize it. The tension of the setting lies here. A sign has appeared, but nothing has changed yet. No doors have opened, no journeys have begun. Everything looks the same as the day before, and yet everything is already different. Because once God reveals a sign, neutrality disappears. To notice it is to feel responsible. To ignore it is to choose comfort over curiosity. The sky has spoken, softly. And now the question is not what it means, but who will respond. If you have ever felt that God might be working quietly in your life while nothing around you seems to change, this moment speaks to you. Because before faith becomes action, it always begins as awareness. Comment one word if you believe God works even when life looks unchanged. The silent decision that separated fear from faith, the sign in the sky, did not force anyone to move. It waited. And in that waiting, the real conflict began. Not between armies or nations, but inside human hearts. Because every sign from God creates a quiet question. What will you do now? Some saw the light and dismissed it. They explained it away, returned to their routines, and chose the safety of what they already understood. Others noticed it but hesitated. They felt the pull of curiosity, yet feared the cost of leaving comfort behind. The conflict was subtle but real. To follow the sign meant risk. To ignore it meant regret that would never fully disappear. This is where faith is tested most deeply. Not in moments of crisis, but in moments of choice. There was no danger yet, no reward promised, only a direction without certainty. And that is why this moment mattered. God was not asking for strength, he was asking for trust. At the same time, the sign unsettled those who depended on control. Whispers spread, questions arose. If heaven was announcing something new, what would that mean for those who ruled by fear and authority? A quiet light became a threat, not because of what it did, but because of what it represented. Change, loss of control, a future they could not manage. So two responses formed at once. Some hearts were drawn forward by hope, others hardened themselves with suspicion. The same sign revealed faith in some and fear in others. This is how God's truth often works. It does not divide by force. It reveals what is already inside. The tension grew with every passing night. The light remained steady, as if waiting for courage to catch up with belief. Those who felt called to follow it wrestled with questions that had no easy answers. What if we are wrong? What if this leads nowhere? What if obedience costs more than we expect? But deep within that struggle was another truth. The hardest step in faith is always the first one. Once you move, the path begins to unfold. But until you do, faith remains only an idea. This is the conflict that defines the story. Not darkness versus light, but hesitation versus obedience. Because the moment someone chooses to step forward, the story stops being about a sign in the sky and becomes a journey on earth. If you have ever stood between comfort and calling, this moment belongs to you. Because faith does not begin when answers arrive. It begins when you move without them. Comment one word if you believe obedience matters more than certainty. The light that guided without forcing anyone to follow. The miracle did not arrive as a sudden interruption. It unfolded as continuity. The light that had appeared without explanation now began to do something even more unexpected. It guided, not dramatically, not urgently. It moved with patience, as if respecting the pace of the human heart. Those who chose to follow soon realized that the sign did not eliminate uncertainty. The nights were still cold, the roads still long, questions still unanswered. Yet something remarkable happened along the way. Doubt no longer ruled the journey. Direction did. The light did not promise ease, it offered presence, and presence was enough. This is where the miracle deepened. The sign did not pull anyone forward by force. It did not punish hesitation. It simply remained faithful to its purpose. When travelers slowed, it waited. When they moved, it moved. Heaven adjusted itself to human obedience step by step. What made this miracle powerful was its restraint. God did not overwhelm human will. He honored it. The guidance was clear enough to follow, yet gentle enough to refuse. And in that balance, faith matured. Not because fear vanished, but because trust learned how to walk alongside it. As the journey continued, expectations quietly changed. Those who followed no longer searched for spectacle. They watched for alignment. They learned that God's guidance often feels less like excitement and more like peace. The calm certainty that you are moving in the right direction, even when the destination remains hidden. And then, without announcement, the light led them to an ordinary place. No gates opened, no crowds gathered, nothing looked worthy of the journey. Except the unmistakable stillness that filled the moment. The kind of stillness that tells the soul it has arrived exactly where it was meant to be. This was the miracle. God revealed his purpose, not through power, but through precision. Not through noise, but through accuracy. The sign had not dazzled the world. It had delivered those willing to trust into the presence of something holy, quiet, and world-changing. Here, the lesson became unavoidable. God does not always guide us to what looks impressive. He guides us to what is true. And often, truth arrives without decoration. If you are waiting for God to shout before you move, this moment gently challenges you. Because sometimes, the miracle is not the destination, it is the guidance that keeps showing up while you walk. Comment one word if you believe God guides those who keep moving forward. Why God gave direction instead of answers. When the journey slowed and the light had finished guiding, something became clear. The sign in the sky was never meant to replace faith. It was meant to train it. The lesson was not written in the stars, but in the steps taken beneath them. Those who followed began to understand that God's guidance rarely removes uncertainty. Instead, it reshapes how we live with it. The light did not answer every question. It answered only one: will you keep going? And that single answer proved enough to carry them farther than certainty ever could. This is where the story turns inward. Because the real meaning of the sign was never about the sky. It was about the heart. God revealed just enough to invite trust, but not enough to control the outcome. Faith was not rewarded with comfort, it was refined through obedience. The lesson is quiet but firm. God does not guide us so we can feel superior, special, or secure. He guides us so we can learn to depend, to listen, to move without needing full control. The light taught patience. It taught humility. It taught attentiveness to God's timing instead of human urgency. Many miss this truth because they expect faith to feel dramatic. But Scripture shows that faith often feels ordinary while it is being formed. Step after step, night after night, trust built slowly, not suddenly. And in that slow movement, belief became unshakable. If you are in a season where God has not given you clarity, this lesson speaks directly to you. Because faith is not the absence of doubt, it is the decision to walk forward anyway. God may not be hiding from you. He may be teaching you how to follow without sight. The light also revealed something else. Not everyone who sees a sign understands it. Meaning belongs to those who respond. Revelation without obedience changes nothing, but obedience, even without explanation, changes everything. This is the heart of the lesson. God's signs are invitations, not guarantees. And faith grows strongest when we stop demanding proof and start practicing trust. If this truth resonates with you, if you believe faith is built in quiet choices, not loud moments, then you are exactly the kind of person these stories are for. when the sign disappeared, but faith remained. The light did not stay forever, it never needed to. Once its purpose was fulfilled, it quietly withdrew, leaving behind something far more enduring than a sign in the sky. A transformed way of seeing. Those who had followed no longer needed the light above them, because something had been awakened within them. Faith had learned how to walk on its own. This is how God often works. He guides us for a season, not so we can depend on signs forever, but so we can learn how to trust Him when the signs are gone. The journey mattered as much as the arrival. The waiting shaped belief, the movement refined obedience, and the quiet ending sealed the lesson. Nothing about this story was loud, yet everything about it was powerful. Heaven did not demand attention, it invited response. And those who answered discovered that faith does not begin with understanding, it begins with surrender. As you step away from this story, let its truth remain with you. If your life feels ordinary, remember that God often chooses ordinary moments to reveal extraordinary purpose. If your path feels unclear, remember that guidance does not always come with explanations, only direction. And if your faith feels quiet, remember that quiet faith is often the strongest kind. These stories exist for people who sense that God is still speaking, just not always in the ways the world expects. They are for those who want Scripture explained with depth, patience, and reverence. If you stayed until this moment, it's because something here resonated with you. And that is not an accident. If you want to keep discovering the meaning hidden beneath familiar passages, if you want faith that grows through reflection, not pressure, if you want stories that strengthen your spirit while gently shaping your English, then this channel is your place. Don't subscribe because you are told to. Subscribe because you recognize yourself here. Because you want to keep seeing what others overlook in the Bible. Because this journey is not finished, and neither is your faith. Until the next story, carry this truth with you. God may not always leave a sign in the sky, but He never stops guiding those who are willing to follow.